in there, it's where the bookstore is.
Much.
But,
Here to present our next item is Matt Hauschley. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the purchase of a replacement for Marine Patrol Vessel Number 2, a 2001 Lund with a 2020 Lund of equal capabilities for the amount of $25,128, with funds to be paid from the vehicle fund and to sell the 2001 Lund via sealed bid to the highest bidder.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Gibson, support by Jackson.
Good morning.
the
Good
water
morning,
is
the floor
yours.
is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, allowing me for coming to present to you. I am here to recommend to each of you that we need to replace an older boat, now coming up on 19 years old. It's been a good boat. Unfortunately, time passes on for everyone, and it's true with this equipment. The motor has since lost a cylinder. It's a four-stroke. The cylinder was actually welded shut on purpose when it quit working, so it wouldn't further damage the motor. And according to the mechanic who works on motors, it's just not worth replacing at this point. So we also have built up a number of hours, as you can imagine, on this boat just from use. The skeg is now bent. That protects the prop and helps with navigation. The trailer is starting to show wear and tear. Actually, the trailers are some of the equipment that gets used or seems to wear out the fastest, just because of the miles that our Marine Patrol puts on these boats, carrying them from lake to lake to lake to lake to sometimes a river. So the actual vessel scrapes on the wheel wells because of the bunks being worn out. We believe the axle may also be bent. And at this point, the boat has been sort of relegated to our boat of last resort. We hate to have anything in our fleet of vessels
Anything
I don't
of
think-
last resort.
That's right, and you can imagine it be quite equal to sending out a patrol car that we know has problems. We don't want to do that with the motor itself. When they try to accelerate, it tends to stall just because of the lost cylinder. Pretty hard to chase down someone who is misbehaving, so to speak, if you can't accelerate up to speed at a normal speed. So for that reason, we're asking that we look to purchase an equal boat, same boat basically that we're going to be replacing. The vessel is matching all of the specifications, and the equipment comes equipped with everything that we would need to put it to use right away. One of the peculiarities, if you will, about the boat that we're going to be selling is we did have that purchase done some 19 years ago using some of the grant money from the DNR. So there are some requirements if we were to sell this boat, which is what we would plan on doing by sealed bid, with what we can do with the money. I've talked at length with our Marine Patrol Sergeant, and he believes the best option is to buy the boat for the county to own the boat fully, as opposed to using that grant money for a boat or vessel repurchase. We still have to use the money for DNR upgrades and any other of the vessels that we may need to deal with. So that way, in 19 years down the road, when this vessel is ready to be replaced, any of that money could be used for any purpose from the general fund. So that's the advantage to not going back through the DNR. Now, we do have to report to the DNR the sale of the vessel if this occurs, and We also have to report to them any purchases that we make using DNR grant money. They're very strict about that. But you know, the simple fact is the vessels that we have in our fleet get used heavily this time of year, as you can imagine. You've probably heard some of the news reports, and there was a very nice article last week in the Hastings paper that described some of the uses, but they are used every day during the summer. The vessels in our fleet are used every day, sometimes 2 vessels at once, different vessels, different sizes, different lakes, different launches, different purposes. So that's why we need to have sort of a selection of the different sizes and different reasons for the different vessels that we do have in our fleet. So that's basically my story. They're just ready. It's getting old. It's getting old. It's probably got over 2,000 hours of use on it and probably thousands of miles on the trailer. A normal vessel owned by any private owner may get used 20 to 40 hours a season, depending on how avid they are with their use. But when the vessels and the motors are being used that much, they tend to wear. So.
I have 2 questions.
Commissioner Geiger?
Thank you. This might be a question for Sheriff Leaf, or you might not be able to answer it, but do you have plans in the future to add another boat to the fleet?
No plans to add another boat, but we're going to be doing a better job of keeping track of the hours that these motors are getting used for. We might go with a different type of vessel when we replace, say we have a boat vessel for Gun Lake. That's a little larger, obviously, for the larger water. We are looking at our needs, doing a needs assessment at this point to have a vessel that would be capable to be a little bit more user-friendly for our dive team, for instance, something with a dive platform and those types of things. So we're going to be, through attrition, going to be having to upgrade as we go through time, and we're looking at how things have changed over the years from 20 years ago when we purchased that vessel to see what we need in the future. So.
Now, the second question is, how do you determine which lake you're going to patrol with this boat?
That is really driven by the size of the lake, the purpose, the size of the launch, what we can get into and what we can't, because not all launches accommodate every boat, depending on the depth of the bottoms and those things. So sometimes we will use a boat that maybe is a little less subtle in its markings. It still is marked, but maybe a little bit sort of like a traffic car that might be semi-marked, so to speak. So depending on its purpose, depending on what they're trying to accomplish, and depending on the lake. We have something called jump boats, the vessels that are used for our smaller lakes. So like this weekend, they're going to be out at a lot of the smaller lakes. We try to cover every lake that has access as much as possible, especially during the holidays, and we're going to be quite busy this weekend, I'm sure. So.
Thank you, Under Sheriff.
Any other questions for Matt? Commissioner Smoker?
How many vessels you got in the Marine fleet?
Currently have 8. One is fairly new, and then the others vary in age, usually from the 2000s, early 2000s. So we are going to be looking, just like we should be doing with all of our equipment, is trying to sort of predict into the future what we're going to be needing to replace. So we have a total of 8. This vessel is not particularly used, but what happens in the reason for so many different is, besides just the sizes, but if we can divide up the hours of use on each boat, they will actually last longer. So.
And another question is, do we have proper storage in the wintertime for these boats?
We do. We actually have indoor storage for them that we use annually, so absolutely. And we try to have, the maintenance on these things is incredible. If anybody who's ever in this room owned a boat, you know that it usually takes quite a bit of maintenance to keep them going, so that's pretty constant as well. So.
Thank you.
Commissioner
That's all I have.
Geiger? Or Gibson? Commissioner
How many
Gibson?
Marine Patrol officers do you have?
We have 8 now. We have one full-time employee who manages the Marine Patrol, but the others are all seasonal part-time employees who actually do a great job coming in. They usually all have other jobs, and they come in and work for us in the summer, weekends, holidays, and not always the most pleasant weather. You can imagine what it's like out there right now.
You always have 2 in a boat?
Always.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we usually do 2 in a boat, and on the busier days, we'll do 2 teams. So they'll be going from lake to lake.
So,
Commissioner Parker?
Yeah, are you saying that you don't have a planned maintenance plan for the boats, or you're just starting to get into that then? Okay.
We've been fixing as they need, and they do get regular maintenance at the end of the season and the
Yeah.
beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So they do winterize them, so to speak, and then they get them ready for the spring season, and by, making sure everything is working. But during the season, they get repaired as needed, which quite often it's pretty regularly. So
Was there planned maintenance for the cars?
there is.
There is, okay.
There is, absolutely, and a lot of that is on a need basis, but that's something that we've been talking about for a few other components of the office. For example, each of those vessels have police radios in them. We have to make sure that there's maintenance on those as well. Not only the motors, the trailers, the boats themselves, but the other equipment that we use.
So their equipment upgrades, are they gonna be consistent with the new upgrades that like the patrol cars are getting?
That's exactly right.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to purchase a replacement for Marine Patrol Vessel Number 2, a 2001 Lund with a 2020 Lund of equal capabilities for the amount of $25,128, with funds to be paid from the vehicle fund, and to sell the 2001 Lund via sealed bid to the highest bidder. All those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next before the committee is Tammy Pennington.
Good morning.
At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to pay for the roof repair on the Commission on Aging building in the amount of $25,750 per the attached bid from True Colors Industrial LLC, with funds to be paid from the Building Rehabilitation Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Geiger, second by Parker.
Yes, we issued a bid for a request for proposal to put a sealed system on the roof. As you are aware, we have had issues, many issues over the years. We believe the current roof is about 18 years old. We think it was replaced before we moved into the facility. But we are literally have leaking in every area of the building with the exception of the big roof, or the big room, and that's the area that's covered by a pitched roof. So every other area that's flat roof is leaking for us. We actually had an incident 2 weeks ago. Didn't realize that it had rained the night before. We were not vigilant enough in checking the restroom, and the men's restroom is the worst part of the leaking, and had a 103-year-old client whose cane slipped out from under him and he fell on the floor, hit his head. So we really and truly have reached a point where we have to do something significant with the building, and at this point we're recommending that roof system be installed. We did only receive one bid, and that was from True Colors in the amount of $25,750. It does have a 12-year warranty, which would get us through a gap period when there could be some movement made on a different facility for us. The situation now is that there are so many dips in the flat roof that the water is pooling in those dips, especially in the winter. It's causing a problem because when it snows, the snow then melts into the dips and we have excessive leaking. Last year alone, we spent $5,000 having the roof shoveled every time that it snowed 2 inches. And that was a competitive bid that we issued, and the vendor actually did some damage to a rooftop unit, we believe, causing another $6,000 in repair.
Any questions for Tammy?
Yeah. John can go first.
I guess, why wouldn't this be paid for out of the fund balance at COA?
We are spending out of the fund balance on a regular basis to provide services. So we need that fund, we need to maintain that fund balance to provide services to the seniors of Berry County.
Can you tell me what your fund balance is?
It's about $314,000.
Does that include the new building fund?
No, it doesn't include the building fund. The building fund is an additional $380,000. We are spending as well out of the building fund. Last year, we spent $60,000 out of the building fund in order to put in a new restroom in the adult day center. And we spent an additional $60,000 on the 2017 millage. $48,000 just for the election cost, which was all borne by the Commission on Aging. So we're spending out of those funds are depleting themselves. We need to maintain that money market fund in order to keep services where they are.
Commissioner Geiger?
Thank you for your presentation. We've known the COA has had this roof problem for a long time. We've known the COA is falling apart, and we've known that it is ranked our worst facility. It's tied with the Berry County Jail. We also have plans for we have drawings or options for a new COA building. But what we don't have are numbers on how much it would cost the COA board if we financed it a different way without using a loan. I don't want to put any more money into this money pit. I want a new COA building. And I think the voters do too. But the voters have already said no to a millage. So what I would like to see happen is to amend this current motion and add, and to direct the county administrator to determine financing costs of building a new COA building using existing reserves, bonds, or USDA loans. Let's just find out how much it's going to cost if we paid for this out of without a millage. How much can the COA absorb? I mean, we got to look at it sometime. It seems like this is a logical place to do it. That's all I got.
Is there
but
a
I would like
that you made a motion. Is there a second for that motion?
Support.
Discussion. I'm going to need your wording.
Yeah, I got it right now.
So, discussion.
Yeah, discussion? We're in discussion, okay. The COA building, we need to protect that building right now from leaking. Somehow, we gotta do something with it. I would not want this motion, if it's turned down, to cause that 25,000, whatever it is, to help the leaking stop.
Yeah, this does both. We got to stop the leaks. I mean, there are emergency repairs, and we just gave $10,000 for furniture and buying boats. Why would we fix the COA roof? So this does both. This just says, at the same time we're paying for these emergency repairs,
So
let's
your
start
motion
determining.
is saying we also look into funding, the county funding this building only.
I'm not saying the county as in the county of Berry, but we have to include the COA in it. I just want to know how much it's gonna cost to build it
Okay.
without a millage.
So we're talking just how much it would cost to build it. Didn't we already get some sort of figure on that? Didn't we already get,
I mean, we have rough figures, but what would that look like in our budget? How much, what would the COA budget look like if they had to do a payment for a
I
loan?
guess that wouldn't hurt, but
Commissioner Smelker?
I guess my comment is we put roofs on Charlton Park. Now we're gonna put a roof on COA. Transit has had a roof put in on it. Can they come in and ask for their reimbursement for their roof? Because that's a county building. Thornapple Manor's a county building. 911's a county building. Are they all gonna come in and ask for their roofs repaired when they have fund balances?
You know, John, I can't argue with that. We deal with the same thing at the state level, you know, where communities that have made poor choices get funding because they can't pay for something. And the counties that,
But we knew this roof was leaking for years, and it's just not been fixed out of fund balance or by us. The millage-based departments around here don't seem to watch over the building that they're in. And we are opening up a can of worms here by putting rows on buildings when there is fund balances. And that's my thoughts on this. And also, on the motion you proposed, the voters voted down the millage. Now you're gonna bypass the voters and try to go a different way to get the building. You think that's what the voters wanted?
yes,
I don't.
they said no to paying more taxes, so we're gonna find a way to do it without more taxes. I don't think they said no to the building.
You're gonna want the COA to make payments on this building when they couldn't pay for the roof.
No. What I'm saying is, John, we just need to know how much it's gonna cost every year. We can determine who pays for it later. I mean, the COA or the Board of Commissioners. But the first thing we have to know is how much it's gonna cost.
I thought that it was a $6 million building, it was a new building.
But what's that, what can the COA absorb in their budget? That we don't know. If Michael went out, if we sold bonds to bondholders and used the building, fund money that they have, maybe some above the cap dollars, put a down payment on a loan, what would the monthly cost or annual cost be?
I'm done.
And do you think it's right to go back to the voters and ask for it again?
I don't know at that point. I'm saying that putting a roof on this building, I'm not saying I'm voting no on it. We put a roof on that building, and then I believe we can go back to our master facilities plan, which brings the jail up next. If the roof don't leak at COA, and go back to our master facilities plan, and that, you know you're gonna have to go for a millage for it.
Right. So I think there are two issues here, John, that you're concerned about. If I understand you right, you're concerned with the first proposal is you don't want this to be paid for out of the building rehab fund. You want it to be paid for out of the COA cash
Yeah,
reserves.
I think it should have been years back when it started leaking.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you wanted to do a motion to change the funding from, you could do that, but, yeah, all I want to do, John, is, well, let's get the ball rolling on seeing how much it can cost without a new millage.
Commissioner Parker? Did you have a question?
no, I don't think it'd hurt to do that, but we could do that in a separate motion too.
I didn't want to do that because I didn't have an agenda request in.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, may I provide a point of clarification? Go
Sure.
we have done roof repair over and over and over again, and I didn't bring those figures with me, but 7,000 here, 10,000 here. Over the course of the 15 years that we have been in the building, we have done multiple roof repairs and patch jobs, mainly using Quality Roofing, and I can pull all of that information for you, but it has just never worked. One of the problems, where we trace the initial problems to, is that the design that was done by the firm that rehabbed the building put in a canopy that extended 15 feet over the flat roof. And then what happened was that every time the wind blew, that canopy shifted enough that eventually it created holes in that membrane and water seeped down under there. So then we had that taken care of, but we have spent thousands and thousands of dollars on roof repair over the years, Commissioner.
Commissioner Jackson, did you have discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Tammy, for that information. And I think there's some validity to both what Ben and John are saying.
That's impossible. That's weird.
Yeah, that is, but, because we did put roofs out at Charlton Park. We did take some of that, so we've set kind of a precedence for that. The other thing is that with this $25,000 in this expense, hopefully we're gonna have a plan or some motion on a COA building in the near future, but that's probably not gonna be for 2 or 3 years, and we can't continue to let them have an above-ground sprinkler system coming through for them. So you just, the plants don't need that much watering inside. So I think that it's important that we take care of the emergency fixes with this. But I've had a discussion with Michael on this in the past, that looking at fund balances and looking at some things, like I know we pointed out in last year's budget, there was one more payment left on the friend of the court building. That's $88,000 a year that's freeing up next year. That we can look at the COA budget. There are some things we can do that this county has been extremely generous with their millages, with all the different things they're paying for, and I think the voters are tired for it. I do think if we look at this building and allow Michael some ability just to go research some numbers for us, they could come back and probably figure out if it's feasible that we could build a building and not have to throw a millage out there to the taxpayers. I personally think we could do that if we use a little creativity and take a look at the long range of it between the COA and the county with funds available, and I think that would be a good exercise for us to look at it. Landmark did a great job putting together a building design. And if they want Tower Pinkster to tweak that or look at some of those things, we've done a ton of this work.
Yeah.
That might be something that, in business it's called the low-hanging fruit, that you can look at something like this and say, why not look at the resources that we have available in the county, and if we can put a COA building through a good fiscal plan with Michael. Mm-hmm. Let's take the low-hanging fruit off the table. Let's take care of that. Let's give our taxpayers a gift and not throw another millage at them. We know the jail's going to be a big expense, and we know that that's going to need a millage, that we're not going to have $15 or $20 million. However, I think we can look a little creatively at the whole piece. I think there's an avenue potentially to get the groundwork laid and moving on a COA building and focus on our jail.
Yeah. Go ahead, Hu.
Well, I don't like the idea of using the building rehab money because we have other issues that we're working on at this time. And if we depleted that building rehab money, we couldn't work on the front of the court. We don't have those estimates yet on what it's going to cost to do that, to move them. And we can't use that, the money out of the COA to work on the court building for the friend of the court. We can't use their money. If we ran out of money, we couldn't use theirs to do those renovations.
Parker? Commissioner, sir?
If I remember going through the material, there's a 12-year warranty on it. And if they have to fix something, there's another 12-year warranty on it. So I think we can just get by this next 2 or 3 years for $25,000 I think that would be the way to go. As far as, I don't have a problem with Ben's motion, or I don't have a problem of separating it. But I think it wouldn't hurt to get a better idea on cost. And if that makes a difference, we think we all have to look at all the options. I mean, I don't think we can just say, well, it should happen this way or should happen that way. I've been surprised a lot of times about something when it finally was investigated. So I wouldn't mind checking into it either. And I don't care how you do it, if you want to put it in with, roll it with this or what. But there's no promises made on my part for that.
All right.
It's not a commitment, it's just a,
It's letting Michael do some research. We don't need any more studies. We don't need any more consultants on what I'm asking for. We know how much a building's gonna cost, a new building. And so Michael can start working with those numbers and talk with whoever he needs to talk to get us an idea of what it would impact the COA, what would be the financial impact for the COA, or this board. On Hoots and John's issue, remember, you did make Charlton Park pay it back, right?
Not on the roof.
Not on the roofs? What?
On the new building they did.
Okay, so, I mean, you could do that if you,
I got one other thing.
Yes, sir.
You have to remember that Charlton Park did not have any money to do their roofs. They did not have any money in their general fund to fix their roof. That's why we paid to fix their roof.
Any further discussion? So on the amendment, it would read, and to direct the county administrator to determine the financing costs of building a new COA building using existing reserves, bonds, or USDA loans. All those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Nay. That is 3-3. The amendment is defeated.
So can we
Not
go back
passed.
to the original one?
Yes, we go back to the item as presented, which is on a different page now. Which would be, the question before the committee would be to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to pay for the roof repair on the Commission on Aging building in the amount of $25,750 per the attached bid from True Colors Industrial LLC, with funds to be paid from the Building Rehabilitation Fund. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
No.
Nay. The item is approved.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
may I restate my motion, independent of the main motion?
We would like to make us, just make.
No,
a-
I just want a standalone motion.
Okay.
I would move to direct the county administrator to begin, I'm trying to do it from memory.
Here.
Can you just entertain that motion?
Motion made by Geiger to direct the county administrator to determine the financing costs of building a new COA building using existing reserves, bonds, or USDA loans.
I would make that motion.
support.
Motion by Geiger, support by Jackson, to direct the county administrator to determine the financing costs of building a new COA building using existing reserves, bonds, or USDA loans. Discussion.
It's not limited, not limited to that scope. I'm sure Michael have.
This is just research, basically.
Just research.
To come to the board and give us a report on if it's even possible.
It's gonna take him some time, so I'd like to see that.
And hopefully we can blend that in with the other Tower Pinkster information that they've got coming back
Right.
to us on the jail in the near future, so.
Can I
Yes,
ask
sir.
a question? Commissioner Jackson mentioned that we have a $80-some thousand payment on FOC. Isn't that reimbursed by the state?
Some of that comes through the cooperative reimbursement program. Currently, the payment, the funds for that come out of the 100% tax payment fund. But I think it's 21 or is coming up, that, yeah, that payment we will no longer have a payment on that building.
Oh,
But some of that gets reimbursed through the cooperative reimbursement.
what's our net expense on that, you know?
I don't know, I didn't bring that file with me.
Would you include that if this passes? Can you include that information?
I'll take a look at everything.
Don, my memory says it was $88,000.
Mine does too, but I thought that's what our reimbursement was. I may be wrong on that. That's,
It'll be good to get the numbers.
Any further discussion on the
A
motion?
tired memory, so,
Hearing none, the motion on the floor is to direct the county administrator to determine the financing costs of building a new COA building using existing reserves, bonds, or USDA loans. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. The item is approved. Thank you, ma'am.
1,700 older adults, thank you.
Next on our agenda is Mr. Shinavere.
Did we approve it or not?
We did.
25,000.
we did.
I thought it was 3-3 vote.
No, that was Ben's motion.
The amendment
original
was
motion
3-3.
so.
At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of changes, additions to the Berry County Information Technology Security Policy, version 7.0.
So moved.
second?
Moved by Gibson, second by Smelker. The floor is yours, Mr. Shinavere.
This policy, Information Technology Security Policy, was developed, a long time ago, I would say 10-plus years ago. It is a policy that is required by several different agencies that audit us. And I try to come back once a year with updates and get it approved. This time it's been, I guess, almost 2 years with updates to the policy. There are a couple significant updates this time around with the addition of a security awareness and training policy that has been added as an appendix. All the other changes, there's several grammatical changes that have been highlighted in yellow. So if you have any questions regarding those changes, this is kind of our guidebook for security, information technology security.
Any questions for David?
Accept the terms and conditions.
Yeah. How often do we do that, not knowing what the terms and conditions are?
It's a lot of stuff, David.
It
It's
is.
a lot of stuff.
It is.
Who requires this?
We do.
State required, we require it?
Yeah, the state requires it for an audit, for the Michigan State Police audit, certainly, and it is definitely best practice to have this in place and approved by the board. There's a lot of information in here.
Can I ask a question on the yellow? You have yellow and you got some that are crossed out. If it's still yellow, does that mean it stayed in?
If it,
Like,
that means it was added. Oh, yes. Which page?
okay, page, I don't have a page, you got 4, security management, number 4, security management. I don't see page number.
Like it's highlighted and it says malware/virus. The virus is crossed out, but it's highlighted, so it's just, that's where the
That's
total
where the change was. If it's not crossed out, then that part stayed.
This one is regardless of whether, and that's crossed out, and then it says if the account is suspected of misuse or infection.
So if it's highlighted but not crossed out, that's a change or addition.
That's a change or addition, okay. And the other one is gone then, okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I didn't have any questions on that then.
Any other questions for David? Hearing none, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of changes or additions to the Berry County Information Technology Security Policy version 7.0. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved. Thank you, sir. Here to present our next item is Michael Brown. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion for the appointment of officer delegate and officer delegate alternate to the Municipal Employees Retirement System 2019 annual meeting.
So moved.
Actually, that's not the the motion, that's the title. Here, let's try this recommendation. To recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint an officer delegate and an officer alternate to attend the 2019 Municipal Employees Retirement System annual meeting, and to approve paying for the expenses for the officer delegate and the employee delegate to attend on October 3rd and 4th, 2019 at the Grand Traverse Resort in Acme, Michigan.
So moved.
So I got moved and Geiger support? Moved by Jackson, support by Geiger.
Dave, do you want to go?
I will probably be in South Carolina. Otherwise, I would love to go. It's a great resort. Great place to see a conference if you haven't been up there.
Yeah, it is.
Vivian sometimes likes to go to these things. I think maybe we can move it to the full board and add her in if she wants to go.
October 3rd and 4th is a Thursday and a Friday.
Heather, is it your turn to go?
I really don't know. That time
Wait,
of
have
year
you gone?
No. That time of
Haven't
year is
gone.
unpredictable for me.
It is
See,
unpredictable.
I have this other job that's kind of weather related that you just I can't plan that far out. So, otherwise, I'd love to spend the,
ability to adopt or appoint both a delegate and an alternate. And the delegate, both will be provided to MERS. Only one will be able to attend and vote. But should, for example, should you choose Heather as the delegate and
Which I'm thinking maybe we should.
maybe
No,
Vivian
I'm
as the
joking.
alternate, you could,
right,
if you get to a point that you say, no, I just can't go, Vivian is able to attend.
but then the Employees Association appoints the delegate from their side?
The Employees Association will appoint both a delegate and an alternate. Again, only the delegate will go. You don't have to, they will appoint them, but then you're approving the payment of expenses for both the employer delegate and the employee delegate to attend.
So you can't go, I can't go. I think we should just move this to the full board until Vivian gets back, and then we can hash it out next week.
Well, hopefully she's back next week. I'm just not going to put all those eggs in that one basket. Do we have to appoint a delegate at this point? Can we just approve that we're gonna send somebody and determine a delegate later? Like, in a couple
You
weeks?
have to provide a name.
Oh, well,
Well, how about if we put Dan?
If I have time to check my schedule at home, I can let you know. But
You're
can we
pretty
have a
quiet,
second
John.
alternate?
He's pretty quiet.
Commissioner Smelker, would you like to go?
I have between 15 and 20 meetings a month. I'm not really wanting to take on another one.
I don't mind being on the list as long as I have a depth of alternates that could take over for me. And I'll wait till Commissioner Connor is able to speak for herself and her schedule. I think if
she
we
likes
move
to
it
go.
to next week, we would have more information from everybody to plug in a name.
Dan can check his schedule. Okay.
Or do you need a name now?
No, we can do a name next week.
Okay.
We just have to provide those names to MERS.
John Doe.
You also could look if the board has attended enough or is unable to any of the elected officials or departments. If
That-
you chose to.
That deepens that pool.
But,
Pam, do you want to go?
So that is
You
certainly
have a
an
name?
option.
Okay.
All right, we'll
I
decide
think
next week.
Luella would make
Any
an excellent
discussion?
one,
Any further discussion? So the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint an officer delegate and officer alternate to attend the 2019 Municipal Employees Retirement System annual meeting and to approve paying the expenses for the officer delegate and the employee delegate to attend on October 3rd and 4th, 2019 at the Grand Traverse Resort in Acme, Michigan. And those delegate names will be voted on next week. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved. We need some names. I would love to go to
Vivian
Grand
usually likes.
Traverse in the fall.
Would love to go.
With as late as stuff is, I might be able to squeeze it in.
Yeah. Just
Is
getting
there-
stuff planted now, so.
Any other business to come, wait, limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes. Thank you, Sharon.
Board and taxpayer. I want to say thank you, Ben, or at least looking at some ideas for another way to pay for the COA. I think that does two things. As a taxpayer, I feel like I've already paid you a whole lot of taxes. So why not take some of the money that I've already paid you and build the COA? I'm going to be a lot more receptive to giving you money for a jail if I don't have to come up with the money for both. I'm looking at 2015, you did a master plan, so in 2015, you decided you were building 2 buildings. At the end of every year, you have surplus money. You put that surplus money traditionally into 3 accounts. What if you had not done that? Well, every year, that surplus money is 1 million and a little bit more. That little bit more is different each year. So that would have been $4 million right there. You make a double payment to MERS. I know in my household, that's really good. Get ahead. But if I have to use it for a building, I make my regular payment until that's done, and then I can go back to the double payment. So I'm thinking that I come up with $6 million. Now, I'm not saying that's a feasible way of doing it, but I'm saying the money may be there. So thank you, Ben, for saying, let's look and see if it's there. I think it would be good if you included, COA, maybe, a couple of commissioners, the county treasurer, all sat down with Michael, because I know sometimes the more people there, the more ideas there are. There's more ways of finding it. COA board does have a board member who is very good with finances and explains things very well to the rest of us. So I truly hope that you will take this all into consideration, especially me as a taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? I would like to make a public comment as a citizen of Assyria Township and a farmer. So June was Dairy Month, and we got to celebrate all dairy products equally: cheese, butter, milk, ice cream.
You know, I actually went to Moville just to celebrate there.
Thank you, sir. Equally exciting, July is ice cream month. And so there is no excuse not to visit your local ice cream parlor. We will have ample opportunity to taste several confections at the Berry County Fair in 2 weeks. The Little Red Barn will be there and have some single wrap single serve products for you to sample for a minimal cost. But enjoy some frozen dairy delightful dessert during the month of July and support your local dairy farmers.
Supporting farmers by eating ice cream.
You are definitely supporting farmers by eating ice cream.
Okay.
Without a dairy farmer, you would not have that pleasure, ever. Well, there's some imitation products for those who are allergic to dairy.
Would not have
But
15 pounds either.
that being said, enjoy those if you can. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Is there any other business to come before the board or before this committee? There being no further business and without objection, the committee will now adjourn.